Late at night, under the flickering glow of a street lamp, Detective Ray Carter sat in his car, gripping the steering wheel tighter than he ever had before. The police scanner crackled softly in the background, but his mind was somewhere else. His heart pounded as the realization set in. He had made a terrible mistake, the kind that couldn't be undone. Just hours earlier, he had thought it was just another routine bust. A lead had come in about a local suspect involved in a robbery, and Ray, always eager to close a case, acted fast. Too fast. He planted evidence, the way he had done before, thinking no one would notice. After all, he had been getting away with it for years. A little pressure here, a bit of intimidation there, and the case would be shut before anyone could question it. But this time was different. As he scrolled through his phone, a new report popped up, a grainy surveillance video from a nearby store. His breath caught in his throat. The timestamp, the face in the footage, it didn't match the man he had just arrested. The real suspect was still out there, and Ray had just sent an innocent man to jail. A wave of panic washed over him. If anyone found out, his career, his reputation, everything would be over. His superiors wouldn't protect him, not this time. And worse, the man he framed had a family, people who would never stop fighting for the truth. Ray swallowed hard, gripping his phone as he made a decision that could change everything. Should he cover his tracks or finally do the right thing? But before he could act, a knock on his window made him jump. Someone was watching. Ray's breath hitched. His pulse pounded in his ears as he slowly turned toward the window. A shadowy figure stood just outside, their face hidden by the darkness. His fingers twitched toward his holster, but before he could react, the person leaned in slightly, revealing a familiar face. Officer Daniels, his partner. Daniels' expression was unreadable, but his eyes flicked to Ray's phone, then back to him. "You look like you just saw a ghost," Daniels muttered, his voice low and firm. "Something you want to tell me?" Ray forced a laugh, though it sounded weak even to his own ears. "Just tired. Long day." Daniels didn't buy it. He narrowed his eyes, leaning against the car. "Word is you closed the case fast. Maybe too fast. You sure you got the right guy?" Ray's grip on his phone tightened. "What are you getting at?" he asked, careful to keep his voice steady. Daniels sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. "The guy's wife came in, begging us to check the footage. Said he was home all night, that there was no way he could have done it. And now," he hesitated before continuing, "now there's a video. It's making rounds online. Doesn't match your arrest report." Ray felt the ground shift beneath him. He wanted to believe Daniels didn't know what he had done, but there was something in his voice, in the way he was watching him, that made Ray uneasy. "You think I screwed up?" Ray asked carefully. Daniels didn't answer right away. Instead, he glanced around the empty street before lowering his voice. "I think someone's watching, and if you made a mistake, you'd better hope you fix it before they do." Ray's mouth went dry. He could feel the weight of Daniels' words settling over him like a noose tightening around his neck. Someone was watching. But who? Was it Internal Affairs? A reporter? Or worse, the real criminal, the one still out there while an innocent man sat behind bars? He forced himself to breathe, to think. "You're being paranoid," he muttered, but even he didn't believe it. The whole department had a way of looking the other way when things got messy, but this was different. The video spreading online was evidence, real evidence, and it wouldn't be long before someone put the pieces together. Daniels studied him for a moment before pushing off the car. "Maybe you should be more careful," he said before walking away, his footsteps disappearing into the night. Ray sat there, gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. He had to act fast. He pulled up the video on his phone again, watching as the grainy figure walked into a convenience store at the exact time of the crime. The timestamp didn't lie. He had arrested the wrong man. And now, if he didn't find a way to fix it, someone else would. His phone buzzed in his hand, making him jump. A blocked number. He hesitated before answering. Detective Carter, a distorted voice said on the other end. You've made a mistake. Now, you have two choices: fix it, or take the fall. A cold chill ran down his spine. Who is this? He demanded, but the call disconnected. Ray's mind raced. He wasn't the only one who knew the truth, and if he didn't get ahead of it, he might not get the chance to at all. Ray sat frozen, the phone still in his hand. The distorted voice echoed in his mind. Someone knew. Someone had been watching. And now, they were giving him a choice: fix it or take the fall. But how? His fingerprints were all over this case, from the arrest report to the planted evidence. If he tried to undo it, people would start asking questions, and questions led to consequences. His phone buzzed again. Another message. This time, it wasn't a call. It was a video. Hesitating, he pressed play. The footage was dark and grainy, but the scene was unmistakable. It was him, inside the precinct's evidence room, slipping something into an evidence bag. His stomach dropped. Someone had been recording him the whole time. His mind raced. Who had access to this footage? Was it Daniels? No, Daniels had his suspicions, but he wasn't the type to blackmail. Was it Internal Affairs? If they had this, he'd already be in handcuffs. No, this was something else. Someone else. And whoever they were, they had him trapped. He grabbed his keys and started the car, his pulse hammering in his chest. There was only one thing left to do: find the real suspect before this got any worse. If he could bring them in, maybe he'd have leverage, something to trade. But as he pulled onto the main road, his rearview mirror caught something that made his blood run cold. A black SUV. No headlights, just creeping along behind him. Ray's grip tightened on the wheel. Someone was tailing him, watching his every move. Then his phone buzzed once more. Another message. Wrong turn, detective. You're running out of time. Ray's grip on the wheel tightened as the black SUV loomed in his rearview mirror, shadowing his every move. His mind raced. This wasn't just about covering his tracks anymore. Someone wanted him to feel the pressure, to know they had the upper hand. But who? And more importantly, what did they want? He made a sharp turn down a side street, hoping to shake the tail. The SUV hesitated at the intersection before following. Whoever was inside wasn't even trying to be subtle. Ray's instincts screamed at him to keep driving, to get as far away as possible, but he knew running wouldn't solve anything. He needed answers. Slamming on the brakes, he skidded to a stop in an empty parking lot. The SUV hesitated, then pulled in after him, stopping a few yards away. For a long moment, neither car moved. The tension was suffocating. Then the SUV's driver's side door slowly opened. Ray's fingers hovered over his holster, his heart hammering as a figure stepped out. A woman, tall and composed, dressed in dark jeans and a leather jacket. She didn't look like a cop. She didn't look scared either. She took a few slow steps toward him before stopping just outside the glow of a nearby street lamp. "You're looking for the wrong person, Detective Carter," she said, her voice calm but sharp. Ray frowned. "Who the hell are you?" She tilted her head, studying him like she was deciding how much to say. "Someone who knows you're about to go down for something you didn't even need to do." His stomach twisted. "What do you mean?" She pulled out her phone, tapped the screen, and turned it toward him. Another video. But this time, it wasn't of Ray. It was of Daniels, standing outside the same convenience store, talking to the real suspect. Ray's breath caught. Daniels wasn't just suspicious of him. He was part of it. Ray stared at the video, his pulse hammering. Daniels, his own partner. The one who had warned him to be careful. The one who had acted suspicious, but never enough to call him out directly. Now, here he was, caught on camera with the real suspect, the one Ray should have been chasing from the start. His mind spun, trying to piece it together. Had Daniels set him up? Or had he just been playing both sides, waiting to see which way the wind would blow? Either way, Ray knew one thing. He wasn't the only dirty cop in this mess. And now, someone else had the proof. The woman watched him closely, her phone still in hand. Daniels knew about the real suspect from the start, she said. But instead of arresting him, he let you take the fall. You were the perfect distraction. Ray swallowed hard. It all made sense now. The way Daniels had pushed for the case to close quickly. The way he had conveniently heard about the video just as it was spreading online. He had never been trying to help Ray. He had been making sure he stayed in the dark long enough to take the blame. Ray clenched the woman, slipped her phone back into her pocket. "Because I need you to fix it," she said simply, "before someone else does." A gust of wind cut through the parking lot, rattling a nearby sign. Ray knew what she meant. If Daniels had gone this far to cover his tracks, he wouldn't hesitate to do worse. And if Ray didn't act fast, he might not live long enough to clear his name. At his jaw. "Why are you showing me this?" His phone buzzed again. Another message. This time, it was from Daniels. "We need to talk. Now." Ray stared at the message, his fingers hovering over his phone. "We need to talk." That could mean anything. A warning, a threat, or maybe, just maybe, Daniels had realized the walls were closing in on him too. The woman took a step back, watching him carefully. "You don't have much time," she said. "Whatever he tells you, don't trust him." Ray nodded slowly, his mind already working through his next move. He could run, disappear before everything came crashing down, but that wasn't an option. If he wanted to fix this, if he wanted to make things right, he had only one choice. He had to confront Daniels. He drove to the meeting spot, an abandoned parking garage on the edge of the city. Daniels was already there, leaning against his car, arms crossed. He looked calm, too calm. Ray stepped out, keeping his distance. "Talk," he said, his voice steady. Daniels sighed, shaking his head. "You really screwed up, Carter." Ray let out a bitter laugh. "Funny, I was about to say the same thing to you." For the first time, Daniels' mask slipped. A flicker of something, fear, regret. "This doesn't have to end badly," he said. "We clean this up together. No one has to know." Ray glanced down at his phone, where the video of Daniels played in the background. The truth was already out there. There was no cleaning this up. "You already lost," Ray said quietly. Sirens echoed in the distance. Daniels' face paled. He took a step back, then another, before turning to run, but it was too late. Squad cars swarmed the garage, red and blue lights flashing across the concrete. As officers moved in, Ray exhaled, finally feeling the weight lift from his chest. It was over. And for the first time in a long time, he had done the right thing.